Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back and thank you for listening to Bay to Bay Ball. I'm your host, Justin Theriault, and we've officially crowned a new NBA champion. The Oklahoma City Thunder defeat the Indiana Pacers 103-91 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. It's Oklahoma City's first championship since moving to Oklahoma City back in 2008 and rebranding from the Seattle Supersonics to the Thunder. SGA, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, he wins Finals MVP, joining rare air and being one of the few players to ever win regular season MVP and Finals MVP in the same season. He also becomes the first player to ever add, Western Conference Finals MVP. I think any conference finals MVP to that trio, or making it a trio of awards. Obviously, that award recently introduced, so that makes sense. But he is the first to do it. It was sort of, I don't want to say like a letdown or a disappointing Game 7, because the basketball, of course, was good basketball. It was fun basketball to watch, but obviously Tyrese Haliburton goes down very early in this game. He had hit 3 threes. I think in 7 minutes played, he had 9 points already. He was just nuclear in the time that he was on the floor. And obviously, the context was there. Haliburton had been asked by reporters about the concerns of playing with a calf strain. It's one of the most dangerous injuries to play on, right? We remember the Michael Porter Jr. shoulder injury from a few rounds back, where the reports and the doctors talked about, well, he couldn't re-injure it. He couldn't make it worse. He just had to tolerate the pain in that shoulder injury. With a calf strain, the dangers of playing with that. If you remember back in 2019, Kevin Durant strained his calf, didn't play for a few games, unlike Tyrese, who, Tyrese Haliburton was out there, in Game 6 playing on this injured, strained calf. And he had a great game. He played very good, especially, it was a good game, and even it was really a great game when you consider the injury that he was putting up with. And in this one, on the same spot on the floor that he strained the calf on, he tears his Achilles. And obviously that's not like officially reported yet. So it's maybe irresponsible for me to kind of say that, but a torn Achilles is an injury that when you see it, you know what it is. We saw it happen with Tatum. We saw it happen with Dame. When Kevin Durant tore his, we knew it. When Kobe tore his, we knew it. It's an injury that you can physically watch happen. You watch the Achilles pop. We also know this because his dad sort of alluded to it in his comments with the halftime crew, which I don't even know how the hell they were able to contact him. And we also know because of the Kevin Durant thing that I was alluding to, right? In 2019, Kevin Durant in the finals played on a strained calf. It's the NBA Finals. It's the biggest, no matter how many times you play in the NBA Finals, you could be LeBron and play in it 10 times. Those are the most important games of your career. They are the games that people will remember for the rest of your life, especially a Game 6 and 7. I mean, when you think about when Haliburton, strained his calf, the next 2 games for him could have been that team's last. And, as much as we can speculate what the Pacers will do in the offseason, this team probably won't look the same next season. There's no guarantee that it looks even close to being the same team. So he wants to go play with his guys. He wants to go win that championship and keep his team alive. And, from the time that he strained the calf to the time that he tore his Achilles, most likely tore his Achilles, he did that. They won Game 6. He played great. He played great early on in Game 7, and they were winning early on in this game. They looked really good. The offense was there. The offense looked great. The defense needed to look where it needed to be. OKC couldn't stop shooting themselves in the foot to start this game. And it looked like, even without Haliburton, Indiana, was still up at half. So you can only wonder what they would have done with him, right? You could easily make the argument that they would have won this game had he been healthy, but I'm not here to make that argument. What I am here to say is that is exactly the same situation that it was with Kevin Durant. He wanted the championship. He knew the circumstances. He knew the danger. And he still did it because it's the biggest moment of your career, and you're not going to pass up on it. It's the realization of your, dream, right? Everybody has dreams. They aspire to be something. You aspire to be a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer. You aspire to be a lawyer and win the big case. You aspire to be a race car driver. You aspire to be a sports reporter. All these things that people aspire to be. People aspire to be basketball players. Tyrese Haliburton aspired to be an NBA player. And he was one game away from reaching the pinnacle. And not only would it have been the mountaintop, but it would have been as though he had climbed Mount Everest. He had the clutchest playoff run that has ever happened ever. Nobody has ever hit 5 game-winning shots in the final seconds of a game as many times as he has. He had 5 game winners or game-time shots in this postseason run. Nobody's hit 3 in one run. He hit 5. Indiana would have been the biggest underdog to ever win an NBA Finals. Not only from the preseason odds, but in series odds. They were the biggest underdog in an NBA Finals since 2004 when the Pistons did it. They were the underdogs against the Cavs. They were even when they were up in that series 2-0, people still picked the Cavs. They were the underdogs in the Knicks series, and people were still picking the Knicks after Indiana had gone up 2-0. And they were massive dogs in this series. I came on here and I said Thunder in 5. I think it'll take a miracle for the Pacers to even get that one game, and it probably would happen, is what I said. They'll get the one miracle. Well, they got the miracle in game 1. And then they went on to prove that they were just as good as a basketball team as OKC. And it's a shame. It's awful. It broke the hearts of millions of people to watch it happen. Even Thunder fans were distraught to see it happen this way. It sucked. It sucked. And a lot of respect to SGA for the acknowledgement that he gave Haliburton when he was on the floor, because it was one of the toughest injuries you've ever had to watch. On the Nerd Sesh podcast, they compared it to DeMar and made sure to comment that obviously the DeMar situation was different. That man's life could have ended that night. But outside the DeMar situation, I can't think of a more horrific, horrible injury to really watch. Obviously, there's the football injuries, right? Like guys who have broken legs and been knocked out, but I can't think of a time that a basketball player got hurt like this. And not even from a gruesome not even like a gore factor, right? Like the Sean Livingston knee injury, right? Like because when Tatum or Dame tore their Achilles, and they're the ones coming to mind because they also tore their Achilles in this postseason. This one was just really like, because you knew it. You knew when he hit the ground what had happened. It was the same spot in the same arena in the same way that he had straightened the calf. So it was a very familiar look. If you had watched every minute of the series, which if you're an NBA fan, you did, I did, or you at least tried to, then it immediately looked familiar. And if you understood the context of him playing with that injury, you immediately knew what happened. And he's in tears. He's in tears. He's slamming the floor. It was just very obvious and very heartbreaking. It really, really was one of the most difficult moments I've ever had to witness. And it was one of those moments where, like, I don't even really want to watch the game. And my little brother's birthday yesterday, 21st, and my girlfriend and I were debating, or she was trying to convince me to go out and let's buy him drinks. Let's meet him out. It's his 21st. We live, right outside of a nice bar town, bar city, you could say. Not really a city, but it's technically a city. I'm like, all right, we'll meet him at our favorite bar when he's there, and we'll buy him drinks. And I didn't want to go. I really didn't want to go. But I caved. It's my girlfriend and my little brother, so, And that became a lot easier after what happened to Haliburton. It just did. Now that, of course, I didn't end up going out. He's 21, so he doesn't really know how to bar hop. He was only there for like 10 minutes, so. But I stayed and I watched the rest of this game, and it got really uninteresting in the third. For nearly 10 minutes of game time, TJ McConnell was the only Pacer to score a basket. How does that happen? TJ McConnell, the only Pacer to score a basket for nearly 10 minutes of a game? Game, like, not like 10 minutes real life. No, 10 minutes of the clock ticking down in the game. From like the 8:30 mark in the third quarter. So I think like either the very, very end of the third or early fourth. I think I can't remember who said it. It was either the commentators or the Nerd Such podcast, and I loved it. It was just a really good comparison. It was almost like the defense, which this OKC defense is one of the greatest ever. It's definitely the greatest of my lifetime. It was like a snake. I think you said anaconda or something. And it was like they had, squeezed the life out of its victim, right? And that's what they did. They squeezed the life out of the Pacers. Nobody scored. And I blame Rick Carlisle for that. I mean, this is Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And let's run through the box score, right? Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Pascal Siakam only plays 37 minutes. Pascal Siakam only plays 37 minutes. Aaron Nesmith only plays 30 minutes. Obi Toppin, who was not good, but is better than what you have, only played 21 minutes. TJ McConnell, 28. Benedict Mathurin, 33. So, right. Siakam, Nesmith, Niebenhard, Obi, TJ, Mathurin, and then Miles Turner, too. Those 7 guys, that should have been it. I didn't want to watch, and even Ben Shepherd. Maybe you can throw Ben Shepherd in there. A little bit too much Ben Shepherd minutes from me, but obviously the situation called for it with the Haliburton injury. 8 to 7 guys should have played every single second of this game, and maybe until the final 30 of the fourth. There's no reason at all. Pascal Siakam should not have had 45 minutes or more in this game. The same can be said for Niebenhard. The same can be said for Aaron Nesmith. It is win or go home. In fact, it's just go home after this game. You don't have to play. There's no Olympics. Half these guys aren't going to play in some FIFA or FIBA World Cup crap this summer. That's not going to happen. This is it. This is all you have. And I understand how this team works. I understand it's a deep rotation. I understand, guys coming in and out to keep legs fresh. And that way they can, kill the other team and wear them down and still be fresh to end the game. And that's how they did so well against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in this one. I understand that. But still, they have to find it somewhere inside of them as athletes. And I know that they can. I know Siakam has 45 minutes of basketball in him. I know Nesmith has 45 minutes of basketball with him, and the same can be said for Mathurin, and McConnell, and Niebenhard. They have that in them, and if there's ever a moment in their entire career, you don't know if you will ever be back, this is the moment to do that, and they did. And I didn't like that from Rick Carlisle. There's no reason that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should have played more minutes than anybody on the Pacers, and I understand he's the MVP, yada, 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 but you should be matching that kind of minutes. Lou Dort, 35 minutes. Jalen Williams, 38 minutes. Alex Caruso, 32 minutes. Chet Holmgren, 31 minutes. Your guys should be getting minutes like that. I did not like that from Rick Carlisle. I thought that was just disappointing from a guy who's a fantastic, one of the greatest coaches ever, easily a Hall of Famer, and was so damn close to capping off the second, greatest playoff run ever, only behind his own team in 11, when he led the Dallas Mavericks to the 2011 chip over LeBron. He could have had both of the greatest playoff runs of all time. When you ask someone what was the greatest championship run ever, and this person was born in, let's say, 1995, and they're a basketball fan, they would have told you if this Pacers team won, 2011 Mavs, 2025 Pacers, both teams coached by Rick Carlisle. And obviously things would have turned out differently had Haliburton not gotten hurt after 7 minutes. But my point still stands. Those guys should have played more. It was disappointing. One guy that I loved his effort and I love that he played hard until the very end was Benedict Mathurin. He finishes with 24 and 13. It was an up and down series for Mathurin, but I know there's a lot of offseason decisions, and I know I don't think he's a free agent or anything, but he's a guy that you're going to have to decide on whether you want to extend him soon. I would extend Mathurin. I would prioritize him over Miles Turner. I like what Miles Turner does for this team. He is the center for this team. He fits the role. He's a shot blocker, and he can space the floor, but I still think you could find a center who could do what he does. Not as high as a level, but you would hope that internal development from everybody else would sort of continue to raise the floor of this basketball team. Raise the floor of a basketball team that was the second best team in the NBA since January 1st, 2025, and the best team, bar none, in the Eastern Conference since January 1st, 2025. So that's my Pacers rant. It'll be interesting to see what they do this offseason, specifically surrounding Miles Turner and other guys that will eventually be contract extension eligible. As for the Thunder, I am not the biggest Thunder fan. In fact, I have a dislike for plenty of the players on this team, and not really about the brand, not really about the jersey, more so about a handful of guys that make up this team, and even more so about the way people in the media, big media, talk about this team. I don't think this is, a top 10 greatest team ever, like some people were painting them to be prior to the series. Now, had they swept the Pacers, had they beaten this Pacer team in 5, I would have been more inclined to agree with that take. But being pushed to 7 by Denver, being pushed to 7 by Indiana, not that those teams aren't great and they deserve credit for that, but instinctually, I just think that knocks them down a peg. But that I shouldn't be saying that, because what we should start with is obviously the congratulations and the acknowledgement of how great this team was, how great of a GM Sam Presti is. This team still has $1 billion first-round picks. They have an embarrassment of riches, as they would say. They can move these guys and move these picks and do whatever they want, right? And they went out this offseason, Sam Presti did, and acquired the right vets. You got rid of a guy you didn't even want to have on your roster, and you acquired an NBA champion, Alex Caruso, who played fantastic defense throughout the series. While I think Caruso, I don't think he's a dirty player. I think he's a physical player, and we've talked about it plenty of times in this podcast. Guys who have that reputation of an elite defender get away with being more physical. They get away with fouls. Caruso certainly did. Doesn't take away from how good of a defender he is. Doesn't take away from the fact that, for a team that struggles with the three-point shot, it is so critical for them to have a guy like him to be able to knock those shots down, especially, when they're home, when role players do play better at home. Obviously, they went out and they gave a bag to Isaiah Hartenstein, and now that's an interesting thing because it's okay, you have to pay the guys. You have to pay everybody else, right? You're eventually going to have to, give a ton of cash to J-Dub and Chet Holmgren. But the way he went about that contract, so incredibly smart. He gave him an insane salary this season for what Hartenstein gives you. I mean, today in Game 7, or yesterday in Game 7, only 18 minutes, but a productive 18 minutes, yes, but only 18 minutes in a Game 7. Played less in the series, was less effective in the series than he had been in series prior. But that wasn't the point. The point is that he got you here. He got you to the finals. He got you over the hump. He got you to where you were supposed to be. Everyone picked you to be here, and he helped you get there. So it makes sense to me, and it was a good idea to me that the contract is so short. Let's actually pull it up just so I can read it to you guys correctly. I think it's only like a 2-year, $60 million contract. Or is it like $60 million annually? I can't remember. No, 2 years, $60 million with a club option for a third year. So $30 million for Hartenstein this season. Next year, $28.5 million, and then in 26, 27, they can opt in as the team to give him another $28.5 million. So very good contract from the perspective of the Thunder. I think anyone would agree. Hartenstein, like I just said, very good. J-Dub in this one, terrible first half, great second half. The defense will always be there. And you want to talk about defense? How about Chet Holmgren? Not some explosive offensive game, although he finally was better offensively than he had been throughout the series. Because in this series, I thought he would feast offensively. Because I think Miles Turner is a great shot blocker. I don't really think Miles Turner is like what you would call a stalwart defender at the center position. So I thought with Chet Holmgren's foot speed, he would have a great series. It wasn't really the case. But last night, 6 of 8 from the field, 5 of 8 from the free throw line, 1 of 2 from 3, 18 points, plus 10 on the plus minus, 8 rebounds, 2 offensive rebounds, a steal, and most importantly, 5 massive blocks. I mean, he just swallowed up Andrew Niebenhard, Aaron Nesmith. Those guys could not attack the rim. It was very deflating for Indiana, who has had so much success at the basket throughout the postseason. They just couldn't do it against this Oklahoma City team as consistently, and a big reason for that was Chet Holmgren. This is a kid that has still, as much as I don't like Chet, and as much as I think, I don't really know if I feel like nobody's really said this. The kid's kind of an appropriator, and you know what I'm talking about. There's no reason as a white kid you should be wearing a do-rag. But that's just me. That's just me. Regardless, Chet Holmgren is younger than me, has only played, and I'm a young guy, has only played about like 140 NBA games or so. He's never played many in a row until like now, I would say, and last season as well. But remember, he missed. I said it last episode, I think, or maybe 2 episodes ago. Missed his entire rookie season, broken foot. Then comes in, deals with injuries throughout his second year, which was technically his rookie season. And then this year, he missed 50 basketball games. He missed 50 games in an 82-game schedule. He only played, that makes 32 regular season games, and then these postseason games. So the kid still has a lot more basketball ahead of him. I think he'll grow offensively. I think it'll be interesting to see if he ever kind of becomes the offensive player he was projected to be as a prospect. But regardless of if he does or does not, it's very clear to everybody that he is well on his way to becoming the defensive player he was projected to be. I just wonder if he'll be able to sort of bring the rebounding to that high elite level, that his defense is at as he grows. Because I think the rebounding could get there to that elite level that we thought he could be at before that offense gets there, if the offense ever does get there. Because I think they've kind of broken his jump shot a little bit. We'll take our time getting to Shea. Lou Dort, I don't like Lou Dort. I'll just spill the beans for anyone that's listening and any OKC fan that's listening. The reason I don't really like your team, and I'm not like happy that they won the ring, is Lou Dort. I think Lou Dort is a dirty basketball player. I think oftentimes he's caught not really playing like a basketball player would. He loves to flop, but also doesn't love to flop. He also loves to run through people, but not get called for it. And I think that's what rubs a lot of people, including myself, the wrong way. It's very obvious when he's committing fouls. It's very obvious when he's flopping. It's very obvious when he's playing at a level of physicality that's, obviously this is game 7. So I'm all for the physicality. I really, really am. But we're talking about a guy that will beat you up on game 1, right? Or he'll beat you up in a random game in April. That's just the kind of guy he is. His jump shot is ugly, even though he does hit it at a decent rate. Although last night he was 2 of 9 from 3. He's a ferocious rebounder. It's just like Josh Hart, if Josh Hart was more unpleasant to watch. And I don't know. Not a big Lou Dort guy, but he had a good series. I think that's what people need to realize, right? When Haliburton went down, TJ McConnell had his moments, but there's a reason everybody else struggled so much offensively when Hallie went down. Because when Hallie's on the floor, that's the Lou Dort assignment. Regardless of if Haliburton is 0 for 4 in 4 quarters of basketball or not, right? Haliburton can be a total non-factor in the game. Doesn't matter. Lou Dort's attached to him at the hip. And he's an elite point of attack defender. And he'll give you hell. And for Haliburton, when it wasn't Lou Dort, it was Alex Caruso. And when it wasn't Caruso or Lou Dort, it was Cason Wallace, who ended up having one of the more viral clips of this game. And we'll eventually get to that. But yeah, Lou Dort, he's an NBA champion. I had a little argument with my friend about do role player rings matter? Role player rings matter. Role player rings matter. I don't think is Drew Holiday, because then it's like, okay, is Drew Holiday a star, or is he just an elite level role player? Is Derek White a star, or is he just an elite level role player? Role player rings matter. Role players are massive in terms of even getting the ring. I mean, think about Alex Caruso. I said it earlier on the pod. He is a major reason this team won the championship. He was a guy they went out and acquired, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason teams want him. There's a reason the Bulls paid him. And there's a reason that he already has a ring when he was with the Lakers in 2020. So, kind of disappointing to see Lou Dort get a ring. But truthfully, I guess that's really the only guy on the team I'm like, he got a ring. Everybody else, Caruso already talked about. Big get for them. The right move. Good contributor throughout the series. Aaron Wiggins, didn't really do much. Cason Wallace, though, finally broke out a little bit offensively in this game. 4 of 6 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3. 10 points, 3 steals, 2 rebounds. And, of course, the viral clip I'm talking about where he is grabbing TJ McConnell by the wrist, very clearly fouling the guy, right in front of the ref. Very clearly, the ref is looking right at it. It doesn't get called, and eventually, Casey Wallace steals the ball. Obviously, that call in the grand scheme of things means absolute nothing. But it was just like, if you're building the agenda that the Thunder won this series because of the refs, or the Thunder have the league's best whistle, or the Thunder get away with everything, which I don't necessarily believe any of that, but a little bit of me believes that they get away with more than they should. And again, that relates back to, you have a ton of guys on your team that fall into that category of, my reputation precedes me, I get away with more. And so be it. So be it. And then obviously, I think it was game 4 was the Scott Foster game. And I think there's a good argument for that one. Not being gifted to the Thunder, because the Pacers still blew that game in game 4. They blew it. Hands down, blew it. They should have won that game. But you'd be lying if you didn't say that game, more than any game, the refs were beneficial towards the Thunder. Anyways, we'll move on to the more niche line scores. Points in the paint. Oklahoma City dominated that margin. Sorry if you can hear the background noise. Dogs are going crazy. All right. The line scores again. Points in the paint, like I said, Oklahoma City dominated that. 40-26 makes sense with the absolute dominant presence of Chet Holmgren. Fast break points. Very funny that, leading into this one, a lot of the story that I was talking about and others were talking about was how great both of these teams are in the fast break. The Pacers pretty much executed the Knicks, executed them pretty much, murdered them in the fast break. And then in this series, both teams didn't really do much in the fast break because they were both so great at it. They just defended it so well. Bench points, obviously Indiana dominated that one. They dominated it throughout the entire series. And then obviously with Haliburton going down, it just made sense that would happen. So 42-20 in favor of Indiana. Team rebounds, don't care. Turnovers. This one was frustrating because this is where it felt like Indiana lost this game. We saw some really dumb turnovers from Nebenhard again. That's why I'm kind of worried to see what he does as a full-time point next year, because I'd imagine that's what he'll do with Haliburton out. And then obviously TJ McConnell. I hate how many times he sort of over dribbles. As much as I love the little Steve Nash dribble going underneath the basket and back around, sometimes it's a little too much, and you can find somebody else that's open. Other guys that struggled with turnovers. Obi Toppin kind of reminded me of earlier in the series. I didn't realize that McConnell had 7 turnovers, so just a bad game for McConnell. But it was tough for Indiana, but not surprising. I mean, this OKC team is historic at causing turnovers, and I saw a fantastic tweet earlier about just the sort of work that they had put in these game, winner go home situations for OKC pivotal closeout games in the postseason. They held Denver to 93 points, forcing 23 turnovers. Held Minnesota to 94 points, forcing 21 turnovers, and then held Indy to 91 points, forcing 21 turnovers. So this defense that was absolutely amazing all season, and one of the greatest statistical defenses relative to the rest of the league ever, always showed up when it mattered. And tonight, more than I think any other night in this series, they capitalized on that with 32 points off of those 21 turnovers, which we just hadn't really seen them have that sort of ratio throughout this series. As for OKC, they only turned it over 7 times themselves, and Indiana only scored 10 points off of those turnovers. To start the second half is really when the game got away. Like I said, TJ was really the only guy scoring in that third quarter after Siakam went to the bench, which I didn't understand why. Again, I already kind of went on that rant earlier. They outscored the Indiana Pacers 42-20 to start that second half. And then Siakam, here was a great tweet I saw. There was still tons of time left in the game. In fact, this screenshot is from the before the end of the game, or before the end of the third quarter, excuse me. But Indiana was terrible anytime Siakam was not on the floor. Siakam ended this game as a -4 on the plus minus, and his team lost by 12. So I'm not really good at math. So they were pretty much big minus when Siakam wasn't on the floor. Their offense was stomachable it was okay when Siakam was on the floor. It was dreadful when it was not. And their defense was good. It was good defense considering how great this Thunder team is. And it was god awful, atrocious statistically when Siakam was not on the floor. So yeah, those are all the stats. That's my reaction. I went on my rants. Need more minutes for some of these guys in this big moment. Sort of frustrated with a certain somebody getting a ring on the Thunder. But yeah, and let's get to SGA. SGA in this one, shooting splits were horrible. He was just shot chucking in the fourth, but up until that, he was absolutely amazing. And most importantly, he had a career high in playoff assists with 12 assists this game. Only one turnover, 2 blocks, a steal. Absolutely fantastic series from Shea. Really well deserved. This is the guy that won the scoring title. This is the guy that, to me, is definitively the second best player in the world. I'm sorry, you got to you kind of have to repeat this, honestly, to me, to even get close, or maybe I shouldn't say to get close, but to pass Jokic in my eyes, you'd have to repeat this. So yeah, that's my reaction to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Kind of a heartbreaking way for it to end. I took not as many notes on my phone, but let's go through this and see if there's anything that I noticed. Benedict Mathurin being the first guy off the bench was really interesting, and then he immediately generated an offensive rebound, which turned into a Hallie making his third 3, and obviously that was before disaster struck. But 7 offensive rebounds from Mathurin. I love his hustle. I love his athleticism. I think if the Pacers can mold the athleticism and the hustle and the kind of killer instinct that we see in Benedict Mathurin into a more consistent player, Benedict Mathurin could very well be, a second scoring option or third scoring option next to Haliburton down the line in this team's future. I think next season he could be the second or third scoring option on this team easily. I think he could score more points than Nesmith and Ebenhard. I think the only guy on this team that would score more than him next season would potentially be a Pascal Siakam, and maybe that's it. I thought Caruso was absolutely disgusting when he entered this game. You could sort of tell after he made that first 3 from the left wing that he was in for a good game, and then he repeated it with the 3 from the right wing, and you knew it was just going to be, difficult for Indiana to handle him last night. And then obviously, like I said, the Pacers sort of start that second half. We saw the insane Hail Mary 3-pointer from Lou Dort that looked like he just heaved one up and it just so happened to fall in somehow. And then we saw some pretty stupid Andrew Niemann turnovers, followed by some terrible TJ McConnell turnovers that led OKC at the time, their biggest lead, and their lead at that moment when he made the turnover was 6, and that was their biggest lead. They responded to the McConnell turnover by hitting a 3, and all of a sudden their lead, it was 9 points. And then another terrible turnover, which made 8 terrible turnovers in the third quarter, led to them just building upon their pretty big lead at that point to end the third quarter. I mean, even though TJ McConnell had 14 in the third, 12 straight points, the offense was just only him, and it was a little clunky without Siakam. I mean, they even had a damn 5-second violation on inbounds from the baseline. So, yeah. Also, crazy that we had to get very serious Thomas Bryant and Tony Bradley minutes in Game 7 NBA Finals. And the Pacers just sort of looked like they ran out of gas to end that third quarter, and that's obviously when the Thunder really piled on the Pacers. And then SGA finally made a 3 to start the fourth quarter, and that just felt like that was it. Like you had just shot them in the heart, and how we saw the TJ McConnell heroics in the third quarter. We saw Benedict Mathurin heroics in the fourth to sort of keep them in a respectable distance. So that's all my thoughts on Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Congrats to SGA joining Rare Air. I did actually have, I keep saying my final thoughts, but I'm like, but you know what? Actually, I think I still have something that I had saved. Oh, yeah. OKC shot 33.8% on 35 threes attempted per game. That is the 4th lowest mark by an NBA champion since the year 2005. The only teams to shoot worse is the 2006 Dwayne Wade Miami Heat. Obviously, that team had Shaq, and that was well before the pace and space era. 2010 Lakers with Kobe. That's the worst three-point shooting team of all time in the modern era. Or maybe not of all time, no. You know what it is? The Magic, how terrible they shot from three. The Magic were the worst team since that Lakers team. That Lakers team was very bad at shooting from three. But again, 2010, that's, towards the end of the era before pace and space. Pace and space really started in 2015, you could say. And then, interestingly enough, the 2021 Bucks shot 32.1% from three on 35 attempts per game, the same that the Thunder shot. But remember, voice crack right there. But remember, that team was led by Giannis and mid-range assassin Chris Middleton. They were not going to be an elite three-point shooting team. This Oklahoma State team is the first team since the 2020 Lakers to win an NBA Finals without paying the luxury tax. Aaron Nesmith had the highest three-point percentage in a single playoff run, minimum 100 attempts. On 122 attempts, he shot 49.2% from three. And then, like I said, SGA joins elite company with the MVP and the Finals MVP. Other guys to do it: Shaq, Jordan, Bird, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Moses Malone, Tim Duncan, Willis Reed, and Hakeem Olajuwon. He's the first player to do it since 2013 and 2012 LeBron James. And I believe he's just the fourth guy to do it in the 2000s, with 2003 Tim Duncan doing it and 2000 Shaquille O'Neal doing it. Game 7 of the NBA Finals is also the most watched NBA game since the 29 season, and per Bovada official, Cleveland Cavaliers open as the favorites to win the Eastern Conference next season at plus 250, followed by the Knicks at plus 275. Then, interestingly enough, the Magic and the Celtics tied at plus 600. So you could almost use this as a prediction for the standings next season, in which case they'd still have the Celtics as somehow a 4 seed. I disagree with that, but we'll have to see. So, next thing. NBA draft is Wednesday. One of my favorite things about the NBA is how quick the draft happens after the NBA finals conclude. But for someone like me who isn't the most tapped into the NBA draft, I'm struggling right now to kind of catch up on prospects and mock drafts and everything else. I do want to make a draft podcast prior to the draft, which means I would have to make it tomorrow, which I'm going to commit myself to. I will be making another podcast tomorrow about the NBA draft. I'm sort of split on making my own mock draft and reacting to one. So maybe I'll do both. I think I'll read my own mock draft on here. Maybe I'll be able to, I'm not good with computers, but maybe I'll be able to record it on my laptop screen with me on the screen as well. And I'll, record it that way and run through my picks and why I made them. Obviously, my analysis will not be good. My opinion on the draft should not hold any weight. But who knows? Maybe I'll be right about something that other people are sort of, not into, right? Maybe I'll be all in on a guy that other people are fading, and I'll be right. Or maybe I'll be really wrong on somebody, and I'll be hating on someone that everyone else likes, and I'll be proven wrong. So who knows? But it was a fantastic 24-25 NBA season. It's a shame that it had to end the way that it did. And I don't mean that the Thunder winning the NBA Finals. I just mean in the way that Haliburton went down. I think it makes the Eastern Conference really, really, really strange next season. The Celtics will be without Jason Tatum maybe the whole year, maybe just until the last month of the season. That's still 90% of the season, most definitely. Haliburton most likely will not play at all next season. Damian Lillard most likely won't play at all next season. We don't know what's going to happen with Giannis. We don't know who else will be traded from the Eastern Conference to the West, since that seems to be the theme of what seems to be happening in the news cycle. Kevin Durant lands on the Rockets, which I haven't even talked about, but great trade by the Rockets. I guess that's something for me to talk about right now. Fantastic trade by the Rockets. They still have a lot of resources to go out and get other guys. You only give up Dylan Brooks, a guy you could very easy move, like just super easy guy to both mentally and in terms of your team move off from. You have a ton of guys who can step into that position. Jabari, Tari Eason, Amen. Those are all guys who are clamoring for those minutes and are maybe already better than him. right? So very easy to move off Dylan Brooks. Jalen Green, you didn't want to keep him around anymore. He's very inconsistent. He was your leading scorer, but not efficient. And I'm very surprised the Suns took him back. Rumor has it the Suns are going to try and find a team for him so they don't keep him, because why the hell would you have Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Jalen Green? That's a recipe for disaster. But I mean, that's very two good players to get off of. If you're getting Kevin Durant back in return, you give up the 10th overall pick. That's fine. You had the 3rd overall pick last year in Reed Shepard, and he did not play for you this year. You had the 3rd overall pick in last year's draft, and he did not play for you. I don't now I'm getting mad because I'm thinking about on social media all these Rockets fans. They're like, why would we give up the 10th overall pick for Kevin Durant? What are you talking? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You just had the 3rd overall pick from last year, and you could barely find minutes on your team. What makes you think this 10th overall pick will? I don't get that. Regardless, great trade. You gave up 5 seconds. It's a Jay Crowder package, dude. That's the same package given up for Jay Crowder. It's a damn nice trade. So good on the Rockets. They can definitely still make more moves. It sounds like they might. Rumor has it they might even go after Jaylen Brown. If the Celtics move off of Jaylen Brown, I wouldn't want to see him go to the Rockets unless it was Amen Thompson and more coming back. Anything else is not good enough for Jaylen Brown. Obviously, there's still the Spurs rumors for Jaylen Brown. I would gladly take Stephon Castle and friends for Jaylen Brown plus first-round picks in the future, because I know you want to get Stephon Castle and the 2nd, or give me the 2nd overall pick, maybe a handful of other future firsts, and friends, because obviously you have to match his massive salary. Regardless, lots of fun stuff happening in the NBA trade world. I'm really excited to do off-season episodes more so than anything, and I'm also really excited for the draft. So I think I'm going to make a mock draft tomorrow, and I'm also going to react to one. I don't know, maybe I'll do Draft Express. I know they're a very reputable draft website. They do great work over there from what I've heard. Or maybe I'll do ESPN. One of those things. I'll get it from a very reputable. Maybe I'll even react to 2 different ones, and maybe we'll take a look at the differences. But that's it for Beta Bay Ball. Thank you so much for listening. It means the world if you've listened this far. Seriously, thank you so much. I look forward to putting out another episode tomorrow. Being that it's summer, I'm out of school, got my degree. I work and I have an internship. That's a big commitment. In fact, I was at a media event today until 6:30. I just want to commit to this more. So again, thank you so much for listening to Beta Bay Ball. I'm your host, Justin Theriault, and until tomorrow, have a good one.